morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you're joining us. The fact of the matter is you are joining us. It's busting out time, and the very first busting out right here on our local establishment. Ole to the entire world, and ole to my brunch buster brother right beside me, Mr. Chris Parrish. How you doing this morning?
I am doing them one ole of a time.
Woo, you don't get much.
Doing well. I'm finally back on the winning ways. Yeah. I'm a winner, damn it. I'm a soul survivor. Woo!
That's right. I heard you're quite the punter these days, in fact.
I found my inner Pat McAfee and decided I'm just going to kick a lot of people in their perishables and see how they like it. And guess what? Apparently, people kicked me in the balls for a while and were winning. So I just thought, hey, why not try the same thing? And guess what? I win now.
Yeah, and good on you. And you know what? I did mention to people that they should watch themselves. I feared for whoever decided to step up on Friday night.
Bigfoot in the balls.
Yeah, I mean, I know he got a little too big for him.
I found him. I took his kokanee. I poured it down because it's not Sea Change Blonde. Sea Change, please sponsor me. And then I got the big fat dub.
It's about damn time, in fact. And before we start talking a little bit more of wrestling here today,
man or woman, help put me up.
We've got a whole list here of people that are watching us. So let's get out to the people here right now as we got Ed coming in. It's time to bust out, everyone. Best place for Sunday morning, afternoon wrestling chat. You're damn right. And then you see right there, part of a Sunday doubleheader here in Ole. It sure is. And you know what? You're going to find out later that I effed up today. I went and made a calendar thinking that Sunday doubleheader was next Sunday. But
you didn't, because we're talking about what's going on for next week. And technically today is not next week. Today is today. So you didn't. I got you.
Yeah. No, I did, because I said it as if it's next Sunday. But yes, I put the doubleheader as next Sunday. It's actually today. So today I will correct the calendar right here, right now, before we even go to the calendar later. Variant Wrestling Realities is making the big debut here today on our local establishment. You can catch that in a few hours here. It's a fantastic program hosted by Mr. Ed Fries. And your first guests on this particular show are the Brunch Busters. We were honored to be on the first episode of Variant Wrestling Realities, where we talk about all the what ifs in professional wrestling. So you were going to want to check that out later today. It is a fantastic show. We got Mel Ball Collins joining us with an Ole and the double hearts there too. I mean, that's one each.
We got purple hearts, man. Those are important ones.
They are important. Huh? I'm honored. And we got Corporate Joe right there in the chat, watching you guys on the way into work. Fantastic. Glad you're joining us. And then, as always, Carl Carafel. With that being said, we're getting started early. And then we got, of course, Astrid joining us in the chat. There we go. And then we got
on cue too.
That's lovely. We're getting really goddamn good at this.
You know what? After like a year of us doing streams up together, we're finally learning how to work together. It's just terrific.
And then we got Mel coming in. Purple is royalty. Yeah. Oh, royalty.
Purple is a thing now. The Judgment Day is all about the purple.
Yeah. All right.
My nerdballs are all about the purple.
Amazing. I almost feel like I should have had one of these in the Ghostface mask or something like that for Astrid Scene. It's like it's All Hallows Eve right now. I mean, I figured that I'm doing an injustice by doing that. Maybe I'll grab that midstream here sometime. I'll hop off quickly. I'll go get the mask. We'll add it. We'll get there. So, but before we do that, we probably should talk some wrestling. I mean, it is a wrestling show after all, right?
Yeah, tomorrow is Halloween. I mean, we are going to talk about wrestling. It's actually going to be cool that Monday Night Raw tomorrow is actually going to fall on Halloween.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I'm curious. Like Brock Lesnar is going to be back for tomorrow. So
I wonder what he's going to be dressed as.
That's scary enough.
You know what? I'll pop hard if he wears a watermelon helmet out to the ring for Halloween. I mean, and for anyone who doesn't know, that is what our local team in Saskatchewan for Canadian football is known for, is cutting out watermelons and wearing them on their heads like football helmets and calling themselves melon heads. So it would be very comical if Brock Lesnar came out with one of those, but probably only to a very niche market of the fans.
If he came out in like a costume, like anything, like I'm just gonna pop. Like it'd be hilarious. If he came up as Ghostface, it'd be funny. Like,
you'd never know who was behind the mask because that body shape does not give anything away at all.
But yeah, no, like I think it's cool. It's nice when some of the shows like that fall on these kind of days. Like, I know it's kind of weird, like around Christmas where everything's like pre-recorded and all that stuff. And I know sometimes like wrestling gets a little too hokey around the holidays, around these kind of times of year. If he dresses like Paul Heyman, oh,
I mean,
like a walrus, like he has like that kind of thing going.
Oh God. I didn't even think I was planning to watch Raw, but now I think I've changed my mind already just with the possibility of what Brock Lesnar could come out wearing.
I mean, and he's going to disappoint because he's just going to come out dressed like he normally dresses, but it's still going to be terrific. But yeah, no, I mean, I just think it's fun. Like, especially if this is like a Monday Night Raw where it doesn't get too hokey. Like, of course, like maybe R-Truth will get hokey if he's on the show. A couple of other people might, but like, I don't know. I'm just curious because, like, man, Raw's getting so good lately, especially with the OC against the Judgment Day. Like, seeing Carl Anderson against Finn Balor on Monday was absolutely amazing. And then New Japan was like, we're going to strip you of was it New Japan? So they're going to strip him of the Neverweight championship. And Carl Anderson's like, no, you're not.
The best part is like he could just walk into Raw at any point with that title belt now because there seems to be an open communication to this. It almost makes me wonder if there isn't some involvement between the two companies to allow this conversation to go on like that, the narrative to happen, and maybe a little bit of back and forth playing between the two companies just to see how, what could possibly happen.
Well, between that and between like on AEW, like watching like the Young Bucks do their like Thanos like video, or kind of like, didn't we see like CM Punk on a Ring of Honor thing too? Like, I'm just wondering if like this is just like all giant works and like nobody's actually leaving a company and nobody's actually being like let go. They're just all like deciding to mess with us.
It's the only way they can nowadays. They got one big collective, like, up yours to the fans kind of thing.
Like, imagine if we actually see Carl Anderson like in New Japan that day. Imagine if we see CM Punk in Ring of Honor and we see the like everyone like else back at like on Dynamite and stuff. Like, people are just gonna go insane.
Yeah, and everyone will pop for it at first and then pick it apart later. But that's what we do as wrestling fans. I mean, that's what we do. Right? Yeah. We get really, really excited, and then we get really frustrated when
if we don't get sucked into drama and make really bad narrative decisions on Twitter, what are we doing?
That's right. We're just not being fan enough by enjoying.
Oh.
Speaking of enjoying, like let's go back to Friday night though, because this. We talked about you kicking somebody in the perishables, but let's explain the whole story. Your pro and everything. I mean, you literally put Bobby Sharp on the shelf. Like, I mean, you messed him up something bad. Like, I mean, there's got to be quite a bit of animosity there to completely take a guy out that early from his return from surgery and put him back right in the hospital and having to have another surgery. I mean, there's a lot going on there.
Well, and like, I'm not going to get as heated up as I did out there here because this is like a Zen place, right?
Yeah, of course.
The bus station is more of a Zen. Bust, not bus.
Yeah, bus station.
But yeah, I mean, let's not lie. I mean, it was. Thank you. I mean, but like. It was no surprise that June, July, I'm not wrestling at the Love Wrestling shows. I legit went. Well, I mean, let's just say I became sharper. How about?
Even better.
Yeah, he's not sharp enough. But with that being said,
I'm gonna run out of drink on this episode.
Oh yeah. But no, like there's 2 months though. I'm not wrestling at a show. I legit went back and saw some of my family, trying to reevaluate kind of where I was going. I'm on a giant losing streak. I'm losing faith in myself. I'm writing myself off before I even step out there. That is not helping me get those big fat dubs. But then Bobby comes in. We have a match, and a good match. He wins. Good on him. But then he sticks out his hand like he's trying to help me out. And like I know people like, oh, he's just trying to be a nice guy, be a friend. And I saw what he was doing. He was doing this my entire career. Anytime like he sees me, he's like, oh man, okay, just come up with me. Just come with me. Like, like I can help you. And it's like, wait. This is not about us. This is about you. And he's like, come join me, be my partner for this tag turn. And it's like, wait, come join you or come help? Like, let's help each other. Like, there's a difference between that mentality and that mindset of like, okay, let's do this together. But no, he was always come help. I'll help you. Come help me. Right. So I was like, okay, that's a little bit, it's not something I digged. And then he speared me at the show, and then it's like, okay, like, what are we doing now? Like, what, like, you want, like, so I was like, no. So, like, and then I get my ass handed to me. I got dropped on my head by Sheik Shabazz and B-Rat. They pick up the win, and then Bobby's, pulling that same shtick again. So I was like, I had enough. So I kicked him in his Bobby Sharpies, and then I went to town on his face with my fist, and it was nice. I took the detour route. I saw all the nice sights. And then I, had an open challenge because he tore his Achilles. I mean, because, the internet people like, oh, Parrish, you're an asshole. You turned heel. And then, of course, Bobby Sharp is like, no, they're talking about Parrish, not about me. So I'm going to, break my heel now. So, just, whatever.
And now that we've got that off our chest.
Abs are overrated, like, think about it. If like God wants you to have 8 of them, like they're not good if you need 8.
Trust me, Mel's just saying that because she's trying to get people off the scent of her obsession of Filthy Tom Lawler and his Daisy Duke shorts. I mean, I'm onto it. I know it. I'm not.
But those are nice Daisy Dukes, though.
I mean, they're beautiful. I mean.
So like I don't know. If you saw my wrist tape, I'm all about no more BS. So like whether that's the BS we know or bullshit. So it all depends.
So in case anybody missed it, of course that was on the Love Wrestling show from Friday night, and I know that will be coming out on Love Wrestling's YouTube channel as well too. So I mean, if you want to get the opportunity to go see what happened from Friday night, stay tuned because it will be coming soon, and you'll be able to see just exactly what happened.
I do want to ask you something though. So I beat up a guy who was about with tinfoil, and then like a Yeti monster kind of a thing. And then I got interviewed with someone with yellow hair that reminded me of a brick road. Why was there so much Wizard of Oz references around me on that show? Or am I just seeing things?
Well, because we weren't in Kansas anymore.
I know that. I didn't want to be in Kansas. Like, not at all.
Well, I mean, I don't know the true answer to that. Other than that, that's all I got. You didn't allow me to prepare notes on that. I didn't
even meet a Dorothy. This is bull, man. This is bull. No more BS.
Was there at least a Toto kicking around somewhere?
I did see Kyoto. Does that count?
Nice. Yeah. No Wicked Witches?
Well, I don't want to get into that.
They weren't in costume.
Right. Speaking of witches though.
Yes.
Bray Wyatt, Savvy the Witch.
Yeah.
Going to Bray Wyatt because that's the only transition I have. But we finally got to see Uncle Howdy.
We did get to see Uncle Howdy. What a weird mask that is. I'm not sure what it is. But it's very interesting. It's an interesting thought whether or not we believe that Bray Wyatt is Uncle Howdy, or we believe that there is somebody else behind that mask. There is some other voice inside of Bray's head. Either way, I'm not sure which part I like more, the legitimate Bray Wyatt cutting the promos he's been cutting, or the story with Uncle Howdy. I mean, I'll see how Uncle Howdy unfolds, but I think I've been way more intrigued with Bray Wyatt just being Bray Wyatt. To be honest, like I kind of want to see Bray Wyatt just be a pro wrestler and cut pro wrestling promos right now, because it's so intrigued with him just being more of himself than I am with what's going on with Uncle Howdy at the moment.
Yeah, and like from what I understand, the QR code that like slightly popped up right before we saw Uncle Howdy.
Yeah.
Apparently, like I don't know. Did you check that one out? Because it looked like it just showed to a picture of Bray and it just said the words like liar or something on it.
Yeah, and keeping in mind too that the X's across Bray's eyes in that particular picture are very reminiscent of the way when he would defeat somebody as the Fiend, their picture would then go up in the Firefly Funhouse with the same X's across the eyes. And I believe there was another hidden Easter egg within the picture as well too. There was something spelled out as well too that leads to the idea of Bray, because he had just said that he no longer is wearing a mask, like he's himself kind of thing. And then the idea is that Uncle Howdy is like, no, like the truth will set you free kind of thing. And I believe that we're getting this side of Bray Wyatt where he's teasing us into this thing and he's being a lot more manipulative, and we're going to find out that this entire time he's been deceiving everybody, and he's going to become a very sinister version of himself after this. I think that there's going to be more depth to this character than meets the eye at the moment. But very, very interesting still. I'm really liking it. The QR codes are still panning out. There still could be more. I know that the immediate thought was that this was going to be a faction. We were going to have a group of 6, all this kind of stuff. And now I'm thinking we don't need that. We don't necessarily need to have a big group following. I think Bray has been interesting enough in this capacity that we don't necessarily need to have 5 people following him around down at ringside.
Yeah, like, and what I'm curious about this is like, and we still could even get to a faction. I think the beauty of this is we have legitimately no idea what things they're heating up for. Like, we have no idea what we just saw, like what the next step is. And I think that's the most riveting part about this whole thing, is that this is allowing us to think, okay, I think I know where this is going to go. But then the next thing we see is totally different to what we were thinking, or it has pieces to what we were thinking, but it wasn't what we were thinking, like, and I love the fact that he just keeps you on your toes, because he comes out through that door, he rips out that mask, and then we see this mask again in the promo, and we're like, very interesting. So is he really fighting with himself? Is this in the flesh a feud of Bray Wyatt actually fighting his inner demons? Yeah, and maybe one of his inner demons was Uncle Howdy. Like, I have no idea. Like, I don't get this, and I love it because it's just challenging me now as not only a person but as a fan. And I think there's so many good things out of this.
Yeah, and I think that you can look into it in this way too, is that the name Uncle Howdy, very reminiscent of Captain Howdy, which was the inner demon that possessed Regan in one of the best horror movies of all time, The Exorcist. And I think it almost comes along those lines, is that I feel like Uncle Howdy is Bray internally fighting with himself. He is Uncle Howdy. That's the theory I'm going to go with, is that that's the case. And once Uncle Howdy takes full control of the entity that is Bray Wyatt, the actual physical entity of Bray Wyatt, that's when the sinister side's going to come out. We're going to get that dark seated Bray Wyatt. And before talking about more of that, I just want to say kudos to Bray Wyatt too, because within a week of his return into WWE, not only did he pop the SmackDown ratings for Fox higher than they have been in a long ass time, but he also now is the #1 merchandise mover once again within the company, beating out the Bloodline, which has been at the top for quite some time. And damn it, if that isn't just saying something about the love and admiration that the fans have for you as a performer.
And I think this just shows you that Triple H has that knack with the fans. He's very in tune to what the audience wants, because he brought back Bray Wyatt, understanding that, okay, not only is this guy a benefit to our business, but creatively he is somebody that we have never seen before. And he's said in the past, he just needs to have that one guy to help him control his ideas, because this is where Bray Wyatt goes off the rails. That's why I think he and Busting Out makes a really good pairing, because going off the rails is kind of our theme song. But yeah, but not only does he come back, but then he also has this audience relationship that very few have, and it's a very loyal and it's very devoted and it's a very complimentary relationship between him and the fans. And it's just one of those things where Bray Wyatt just is absolutely just loved. And not only is him coming back so important because it's fresh and it brings the product to be challenged in different ways now, but now there's also that hero, whether it's not maybe your clean cut hero like a Superman, but it's more dark like a vigilante Batman, but even more so than that, like more kind of maybe like a Crow kind of version, and even maybe more dark than that. But somebody who isn't the paper type, that Manila type, that hero that we all want to think we know, but it's the hero that we never knew we needed, but it's there now, and I love it. And it just shows that Triple H is really, really on that pulse with WWE and its audience.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because within that promo that Bray was given on Friday, he used the same exact wording that Triple H used in his interview with Ariel Helwani about how he's not always had full control or whatever. He's kind of all over the map and stuff like that. And that's on him and everything. It's funny that they incorporated that into Bray Wyatt's promo there as well, too, kind of being like, yeah, I'm good now. Don't worry about it kind of thing. And, I was out of control before, but I've got it now. We're all good kind of thing. And when we do see him snap, I hope it's just full blown, just really bad for somebody. I hope that there is an absolute demolishing of somebody at that point, and that it really just goes down that road and allows Bray Wyatt to become a very feared individual within the company. I'm still curious to see how his wrestling is going to pan out, because if there's one side of Bray Wyatt I haven't absolutely loved, is his wrestling. And it's not that he's bad, he's just not left us with a lot memorable when it comes to the in-ring. But it just goes to show all the credit to what he's like as a character-driven individual, because we're still interested in everything he does without a match. Like, he's been back for a few weeks now, and all we've got are these promos, and everybody is still as excited to buy merchandise, tune in on a Friday night, and all these things to see what Bray Wyatt does next, and he doesn't even need to step in the ring for it.
Yeah, and I think that just shows you that it is very possible for professional wrestlers to just be a good microphone man like Bray Wyatt is. And we see it on the other side. MJF is the exact same way. He can pull you in and take you for a ride on a microphone, where the matches are more rare and they're more of the spectacle. This is why Undertaker was so good. This is why Brock Lesnar is so good, because they make those matches feel like moments, like spectacles, as I said earlier, to the point where when they do get in the ring, it's a can't miss. It's a must watch. And you're telling your friends, it's like a party that you're gonna like bring people up in the house. You're gonna, order that pizza. You're gonna, BYOB kind of parties, but then you want to get together and you want to watch this, because when you're gonna see something like that, it means something. And I think that's the very key ingredient here, is that they're getting you on that ride, that roller coaster ride, and then when they finally, go down that hill, or they, go to that spot where it gets that reaction out of you, it's a big one. And I think just kudos to their abilities to tell that story, because that's what pro wrestling is. It's all about the peaks and valleys of storytelling.
And there's been a lot of those peaks and valleys as of late, definitely. And it's kept us very interested as professional wrestling fans to be able to go and watch these shows, tune in, find out what's going to happen next. I mean, they're giving us reason to want to continue to tune in. And that has been a wonderful journey, especially this year, especially after so many years of not so great storytelling and not so great wrestling. It has been just an absolute served up platter of better storytelling and better wrestling all year long.
Yeah. And that's just, kudos to not only the talent, but also the people in charge to actually know when the right time to do that. Because again, wrestling is just like anything else. When you put out too much of the same thing, you're going to bore your audience, no matter how good it is. People are going to get tired of seeing the same thing. That's just human nature now. So it's really cool that not only is WWE doing a lot of different ways of going there, but so is AEW, and it's very refreshing to see this. I mean, I'm sure you can say the same thing about your local scene there, and I know Friday night with our local scene here, it flourished because I now think there are different companies putting on good stuff.
Yes.
Just doing it in different ways, and it's fine. It's great. And I kind of want to go into that same thing, but kind of take a detour on that, staying in the same brand. But we're seeing something like the Bloodline go, and they're doing the exact same thing with the evolution of Sami Zayn as the honorary Uce, but they're going about it in different ways. They're using comedy, and with comedy, as hello, Andre. How's it going, man? Also, if you didn't have a chance to see Andre's stream on Friday, doing that watch along for New Japan, go check that out, as it is on the Twitch at our local establishment. Very good, very fun stuff.
That was a good time. I wasn't even watching the event. I was just watching Andre on stream, getting excited about it, talking it through. And Andre gives a real in-depth knowledge of the New Japan pro wrestling roster and everything that's going on. But you get caught up right away as well too. I mean, it's just great to have somebody so experienced on screen being able to drive that home while watching. And again, everybody go check that out. It was a fantastic watch.
Yeah, and Mel Balcon saying it is now up on YouTube, so go check that out. Go check out not only Andre and Melball on YouTube, but also go check out our local establishment on YouTube, as well as Video Bros and everybody else here contributed to our local establishment.
I'm gonna be back in just one moment, Pierce. Just give me 1 sec. I'll be right back with you.
Okay. As we're talking Bloodline, one member is solo, like I am right now. But no, what I think is really great is I don't know how many people saw the segment where Sami Zayn actually referred to Jey Uso as not being very oozy during the promo. And what I thought was funny, he managed to almost break character of everyone in the Bloodline, which was pretty amazing. I thought it was hilarious that even Roman Reigns needed to take a minute to kind of get his composure back. Even Jimmy Uso, oh my God. Is that Mom? No, that's Bobby. Oh my God.
There was a promise made, so I mean.
Okay, man, I'm watching a Saints game. I don't need more heart attacks in one day, all right?
This is a fun character, not a killer character. It's all good.
Oh man, we got a murderer and a parish on screen. I don't know what to.
I mean, there's a reason his face is green. Trust me.
Well, you're from Saskatchewan. I get it.
Yeah, of course.
I'm just mentioning about how gold Sami Zayn was in this segment on Friday in SmackDown, because he managed to break character of everyone on the Bloodline, which was just hilarious to me. Like, not only is he becoming, I think, more of that sympathetic figure in the Bloodline, like when that day comes where he is kicked out of the Bloodline, he is going to be super huge. And I kind of now am leaning to my hope that we see Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns maybe at the Rumble for that Universal WWE Championship.
That would be a perfect setup, actually. You know, again, giving Sammy the opportunity to get. I mean, he's already getting over as a babyface. Let's not kid ourselves. He's doing so well at that, and that at Royal Rumble. I know Ed's coming in and saying at WrestleMania. I say do it. Like I agree with you. Do it at the Royal Rumble. Sammy not gonna be the guy that topples Reigns. Let's not kid ourselves. But it's a great matchup where you
I will say, given the right story, though, it could very well be the right choice.
I'm not saying he's not going to eventually be the guy that wins that title. I'm just saying I don't see it being right now, but that matchup at the same time gives people that hope, and I think that there would be that tiny bit of belief in everybody that Sami Zayn could pull it off, and you're going to get a very unique and interesting match in the process. Yeah, I think that down the road, Sammy, with everything he's done, is going to be pretty much one of the top baby faces in WWE, especially going into 2023. And I don't think Triple H is going to deny how over he's getting with the audience. And Sammy is going to have some form of gold here very, very soon.
What I'm curious with is what the end game is, because it's either going to be him with a championship or him with Kevin Owens again, or possibly both.
Yeah, and
I'm saying this because what I loved about this their stuff on Friday is it allowed, with all the chaotic stuff going on between the Usos, Zayn, and Reigns, where we finally had Jey Uso flat out say in an argument with Sami Zayn, "I don't care what the tribal chief says," and that got a huge reaction. To the point where that argument and that not getting along, like Jey Uso finally told Sami Zayn why he doesn't want him a part of the bloodline, or finally get a little bit more clarity. And that animosity led to Sami Zayn and Solo dropping a match towards the Brawling Brutes without Sheamus, who, you know, from a storyline broke his arm, but in reality got married on the weekend. So congratulations to Sheamus.
Yeah, right.
But the single fact that they're making Brawling Brutes now the number one contenders, who now have a tag team title match at Crown Jewel, I wouldn't be shocked to see Brawling Brutes become tag champions at Crown Jewel. I wouldn't.
No, and it's definitely leading that direction, and it's a very big possibility. What Crown Jewel is what next Saturday?
This Saturday, November 4th.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Nice. So I'm almost thinking probably be a watch along party with us, hey?
Potentially, that could be in Lethbridge for the other PPW.
Oh, the other PPW. I've heard of them. I heard they're pretty good.
Yeah, Parish Pro Wrestling. No, Parish Pro Wrestling.
That's what you're going to turn Prairie Pro into if you ever come out, right?
Or Parish Punts Wieners. Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah.
I'm good. Don't make me dribble coffee all over myself this early in the morning.
Is it decaf?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then you want to keep that in your mouth. And off the rails we go. But
and where's the "that's what she said" on that one?
You're right. But yeah, no, and I just think this like spiraling out of control kind of atmosphere could be kind of like Sami Zayn now being a part of Jimmy Uso, or say Jey Uso, sorry. That this could lead, and I don't think Sami Zayn is going to be at Crown Jewel. However, to me, this also just showcases, you know, Roman Reigns is like, I don't think it's going to be a thing. Roman Reigns is going to beat Logan Paul. We all know this. That's, you know, the worst kept secret in WWE right now.
Yeah.
But I do feel the Brawling Brutes have a huge chance of bringing home those tag titles. And I'm very curious to see where this goes, because if somehow this comes back to Sammy, I'm assuming we're eventually going to see Roman get mad at Jey, but ultimately blame it on Sammy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, like I'm there for the ride, because this has been very good. And that's where I'm like, okay, like we're getting completely different ways of storytelling between Bray Wyatt and the Bloodline right now, but they're being done in great ways.
Yeah. And I mean, they have been testing out the Sami Zayn being more of a baby face on the house show circuit. Definitely, I know the show that was done here, it was him and Solo as a tag team, and when Sammy was on the mic, everything he was saying was babyface, like, you know, thanking the audience and saying how great it was to be here. He hadn't ever wrestled here before in his, you know, 20 plus year career, and all this kind of stuff. And then, you know, May can mention that, you know, the true leader of the bloodline is him and stuff like that. Then he looks back at Solo and goes, "Don't be telling the tribal chief on me now," kind of thing. And like, you know, that's where it's all leading to, is that inevitable turn and everything like that. But I do believe, and I know that Ed had mentioned, why couldn't he be? I just feel like Sammy's not going to topple Roman, but I don't see the, you know, I know talking about the Brawling Brutes could be tag champs. That's very possible. But I also see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn as a tag team and being tag champs. I think that run is coming before either one of them taking a run as a world champion. But not to say they won't be world champions eventually too.
Yeah, and it's just curious because we haven't seen, and so before I get in that, hello there, Amazing. How are you?
Yes,
thank you for joining us. We appreciate that. Also, just want to say thank you to anybody who's watching us here on our Twitch at Local Establishment. Anybody who's over at my channel at Chris Bears watching it. First time I realized we can actually Twitch on multiple, or stream on multiple Twitches on StreamYard. So that's cool.
And we should probably thank everybody for like 1 week of OLE, and we're already all we're shy of is like another day of streaming to hit affiliate. So thanks to everybody who followed along and helped that happen within 1 week of the debut of OLE. This has been phenomenal this week.
Yeah, tomorrow is officially the 1 week anniversary of our launch date, and we just want to say thank you for not only the progress we had, but that support that we've had, and we definitely can't do it without anybody else. And you know who we definitely couldn't do it without, Bobby?
Who's that?
Beautiful sponsors down in below, rogueenergy.com. I mean, they've given us the shot that we needed to always have that energy to, you know, put in that work to get those streams going. And if you want to use the code word or promo code OLE Pods, you can get 10% off your orders. Man, I am absolutely amazed anytime I'm talking to Melba Collins about the flavors, as she is just putting these over like you wouldn't believe, about how many different varieties there are, but how good the flavors are. So go check these out. And I know you have a lot more details on the product itself. So let us know a little bit more of like what we can get over at Rogue Energy.
So Rogue Energy is an alternative to the average energy drink that you'll find in the stores. So what they provide is a lot of different drink powders that you're going to add to your water, to your drink or whatever, to give yourself an energy-like drink. But the best part about it is these things are sugar-free, low-calorie, vegan-friendly powders. So again, you're giving yourself an opportunity to have something that is better for your own personal health, but going to give you the energy and the clarity of mind to be able to stay up late, doing your streams, doing your editing, whatever it is that you do in this business. It is the perfect fit for you. So go check out our good friends at Rogue Energy. Hit that QR code in the corner, or also you got that ticker down below as well. You can hit that up in that OLE Pods, as Paris said, for 10% off of your order.
Yeah. If there's any better chance to get an energy drink, I don't think there is. I know I like mine, but also just know there's no better time to go Rogue than right now.
That's right. And before we go back to our topic, well, we were talking about Canadian professional wrestlers right there, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. And I just want to give a shout out to a retired Canadian professional wrestler in the form of Vance Nevada. If anybody has not seen this going on right now, Vance Nevada is a former professional Canadian wrestler, especially out in the West here, very well-known individual who has wrote this incredible book, Uncontrolled Chaos. It is #2 on Amazon Books right now, getting rave reviews all over the world. This thing is a collective. If you want to know anything about the history of professional wrestling in Canada over the decades, decade by decade, with a lot of information, it's great. I just want to give a big shout to Vance. I don't know, it's probably not going to show up there, but this is a signed copy that he provided to me last night. Actually saying like thanking me for what I've done to keep Canada Pro Wrestling alive. I don't know that I do a lot to keep it alive, but I do appreciate the sentiment as well too. Vance Nevada, a wonderful human being, and I can't wait to dig into this book and read more. I've heard nothing but positive reviews.
Yeah, so make sure you guys are going to Amazon.ca or .com, picking up your copy of Uncontrolled Chaos by one Mr. Beefy Goodness, Vance
Yeah,
Nevada,
that's it. Yeah.
the mind behind the Canadian National Wrestling Alliance that you can read all about down there, as you can actually see the CNWA provincial title right there.
Yeah.
Where you can actually see who I defeated for that and who all I beat to keep it. Which was pretty cool because that's actually one of the coolest parts about that book is he has the history of all the championships in the back.
I can't wait to read it. It's going to be phenomenal. And
Yeah.
what a hell of a dude too. Like, I mean, just awesome. Like, he brought X amount of books last night, and they're not a cheap book. It's a good little pricey book, but I mean, it's a big beefy book. So I mean, that's the best part about it. And we get there, and he's got X amount laid out on the table, thinking that that should be enough. No, within the first few minutes of the doors opening up, his whole table was cleared. He had to go back to his car to get another box full of books because Saskatoon bought it in troves. Like, this book is very popular. People are dying to read it. And again, everything you want to know, even to like at the back, I believe that there is an index of all the largest gates ever for professional wrestling here in Canada. Talks about the largest audiences, the most money made, and stuff like that. This is a absolute perfect historical monument to our country and professional wrestling.
Yeah. And anybody who is not from Canada who's in our chat, just understand that there is a giant scene in Canada, just as we all know that there's one in the United States, and it's just amazing to read up on it. There hasn't been a book like this before. So it's a great way to not only learn a little bit more about the history here in Canada, which I think is amazing, but it's also a good chance to understand what happens in a completely different market as well, because I think that's one of the coolest things about picking up books that have the same kind of thing in the United States for me. So I can definitely understand. And if you're not even in North America and you're like, I want to check some out, it's a great book, a lot of great information, because I can tell you firsthand, this guy is a walking encyclopedia of information about Canadian pro wrestling.
Yeah. And he knew everybody who walked in the door last night. He knows everybody that has any involvement there as well, too. So it was a wonderful human being. And I'm sure the book is going to be equally as amazing. Can't wait. But yeah, let's get back to our chat about some of our fellow Canadian professional wrestlers there.
Well, I know I had one, and it's not really involving a Canadian, but it counts because he's married to one. And that is Jon Moxley. Because Jon Moxley now has to defend, well, not now, I know he kind of wants to, but it is now set in stone that Jon Moxley is going to defend his AEW Heavyweight Championship of the world against one salt of the earth, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF, Saturday, November 19th at Full Gear. MJF is cashing in that chip and getting his championship match. And I'm not going to lie, I'm 100% seeing this show. I have to see this.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that one. I am a huge fan of MJF. I love his work. And again, he doesn't get enough credit for his in-ring work. For being so young, he actually handles himself perfectly inside that ring. I hope it doesn't turn into a Moxley match with color from him flying over the top rope or something like that. I hope that this one goes the direction I think it's going to go, because Moxley's very, very capable. I mean, I'm not taking away from Moxley. Sometimes he goes a little over the top, but he's a very interesting wrestler, very good wrestler. I'm invested in this. I don't even care what the hell is on the rest of the card. I will watch it for this match in particular, because that's how invested I am in of Maxwell Jacob Friedman and his rise to superstardom. Mm-hmm. I think if they don't pull the trigger on his title run, they're doing themselves an injustice, because this is only going to make a guy contemplate whether or not this is the right place for him. I know he teases the idea like, hey, 2024 is coming up quick and stuff like that. I think the tease is being done in character. I think they're going to be smart enough to pull the trigger here. I think that MJF is going to go over, and we're going to see a very strong AEW championship run. I think this might end up being one of the more memorable AEW championship runs once MJF has a hold of the gold.
I'm not going to lie. I'd be okay, given the right circumstance, if he is not champion at this show, because we do. And it is in his hometown, or not hometown, but it is Newark, New Jersey, kind of close to his hometown. And the reason why I'm okay if he doesn't is because I understand that there is I don't want to say slow burn, but there's not a complete ignition to quickness with his progression towards being one of the company's top baby faces. He has not only been a little bit more okay with the audience cheering him, he has now called them devil worshippers. He has taken a weakness to this. But I do think that there might be a slow burn to that, and nothing would scream, "You're our guy," more than if somebody F's him over. And I saw a little bit of that with when we saw Cass. Trying to remember William Morrissey. Is that his name?
Yeah, Morrissey. Morrissey. We'll just use Morrissey.
When he chokeslammed MJF through a table, I could see maybe what are they? The Firm? Is that what they're being called? Am I right on that?
I don't know. Or, I couldn't tell you.
I'm sure somebody in the chat's gonna let me know.
Yeah.
I forget that group's name.
There we go. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Thank you, Astrid.
I was right. Okay, thank God. Parrish does watch AEW. But yeah, so it'd be curious if maybe they prevent him from winning. But I don't know. I could see it. I don't think so. I think we will see MJF as AEW World Champion. I do believe that that's going to be the sight we see.
So,
however, I wouldn't be against it if it's given the right thing and it completely makes MJF undeniably the most popular thing in pro wrestling by not walking out as champion, and he's an even bigger superstar than he is walking in. That's the only way I'd be okay with it.
So, thinking of that, would it not make sense then maybe to go with the double turn instead of having the Firm interfere in this matchup? What if Moxley used some of his, some dirty tactics or something like that? He introduced, a chair shot behind the referee's back or something like that to screw MJF or something, and allowed Moxley to transition into a little bit more of a heel, because, especially if it's near MJF's hometown, he's going to get heel vibes regardless. So if he was to kind of full blown take that to the next step and cheat to win, MJF is going to become even more of a more sympathetic babyface in the process. And yeah, the chase can be on from there. He can say that, he worked his way up. He went at it. He didn't, take the easy way out of trying to become the champion. He announced it. He got in there. He fought the champion and he got screwed out of it. This company is against him. They're trying to do everything against it. And then that way they can build to that rematch and that opportunity for MJF to finally walk away as the babyface champion, like you're saying.
I think there's one in-ring performer that can make this work. And I think everyone would be on board with booing this man to cheer MJF. And this is the same man who MJF came back to and looked like he stole his moment in his home crowd when he won that AEW World Champion. I could see potentially CM Punk being the guy to prevent MJF from winning that championship, being the heel in this story. But also, I've been seeing some interviews with Tony Khan, especially the one with Ariel Helwani, and the topic of why he doesn't come out on screen enough. Given the relationship, how apropos would it be if Tony Khan is the one who filtered CM Punk, costing MJF that match? Because Tony Khan wants to make MJF's life a miserable hell now.
I see where people are going with that. I don't know. I don't buy Tony Khan as an on-screen personality in any way.
I'm not saying he has to be one. I'm just saying he has the power behind the scenes now.
Yeah.
Because it's MJF, you wanted to hold me up. Now I'm going to hold you up.
Yeah. And I get that. I don't know. I think I'm over the whole authority figures screwing people all the time thing. It's so overdone at this point that it's like, I think there's better ways that they can go about it without Tony Khan's involvement, period. Like, Tony Khan's the money, Tony Khan's the guy behind it all. Tony Khan doesn't need to be involved in the story of banking.
No. The only guy in this story I would actually have is CM Punk.
Okay.
But
see, I'm not against that, because I mean,
but like the whole reason why CM
CM
Punk is that guy is because he was Tony Khan's hand-picked guy to do that.
Just find it hard to believe that Tony Khan would handpick the guy who went into business for himself right next to him, calling out all his people. But
sometimes it's the devil you do know that you trust the most, and MJF could be the devil he doesn't know the best.
True, very true. And again, it's going to be hard to silence the devil worshippers at this point.
Right? So I don't know. All I know is I'm very interested because, like, I'm kind of like, I'm just spitballing. But no, I 100% believe that Maxwell Jacob Friedman will be the AEW World Heavyweight Champion come Saturday night or November 19th. And I think it's going to be one of the moments of all moments for AEW.
Yeah. I believe so too, because again, you're gonna get that feel good moment, especially if it is close to home and stuff like that. You have him in there. The guy is going to be a star, and I think they need to treat him as such. He needs to be the new face of the company, especially. I mean, you got a guy. What is he? 23 years old right now, and he's
26.
20. Okay, 26. Okay, yeah. I keep thinking of his when he was in MLW, probably. But. Yeah, 26 years old. He's already this good, this mature at what he's doing, this understanding of the business. And he was up there a few years ago, too, when he was working MLW. You could see the potential in him even then. He just understands it and he gets it. And I think putting the belt on him is the right move, because so far, and I know people throw shade at me if you want, a lot of the AEW title runs have been very unmemorable. As much as people like some of the people who have been champions, the championship runs themselves have been very forgettable and uninteresting. And I think that will be a different story with MJF.
Is it easy to say that probably the most memorable one is still the very first one?
And as little as I've enjoyed Jericho as a whole in AEW, his title run was one of the more interesting and notable ones that they've had to this date so far, because Jericho, despite his flaws in the ring, now that he's 52 years old and showing it, is he can work a mic. And at the beginning, it was quite interesting and quite comical, and the build-ups and the matches he had were enough to really cement that run as being interesting and unique. I'm not the biggest Kenny Omega fan, but at least his title run was more memorable than Page's run. Page's run was flat and almost forgettable. Punk's run has been obviously built around controversy and not much of a run at all. Moxley, again, I like Moxley, but his title runs, like, I almost think Moxley's better without the belt.
He is almost AEW's like transitional champion almost, like, even though he was the champion during the pandemic. And I think too, like, a lot of people tend to write off the pandemic wrestling a lot, and I do think, like, just as much as, like, we don't maybe like look at Jon Moxley's AEW run as champion the first time, it's kind of the similar reasons to why you kind of forget about Drew McIntyre's first WWE championship run. Right. And it's like we kind of wash that out because of the no fans, that pandemic time. Like, that's kind of when you're like, you're just kind of like up and down with, do I care or do I not? Like, it's just a hard time. But at the same time, I do think they deserve a lot of credit for what they did and how they did it. Kept those companies striving through those times. But was it memorable? No. But at the same time, I do remember them as those champions. So there's at least that. And I do think they do not sometimes get the enough credit for that.
Yeah. And again, I'm not throwing shade at the performers themselves or anything like that. There's been a lot of people in history that have won belts, and the belt run has been unmemorable. It's not that the wrestler behind said belt is an unmemorable wrestler. It is that the belt run itself was booked in a way that makes it unmemorable. And that has been, the issue with the back and forth things going on within AEW that have prevented possibly a really strong run from happening. I think that, between injuries and stuff like that, that has been a bit of the plague right now for them. But with MJF, you've got a guy here. I mean, he works very safe. You don't see him doing a lot of crazy stuff. So you've got the reliability of someone who's going to work safe, is going to do his best to stay in the condition that he needs to be in order to hold that belt and have a run with the belt. Plus, like we were mentioning earlier in the show, he's a mic guy. So you don't have to book him in match after match every single week to make him interesting. He can be that on-screen personality and make that world championship match happen at the pay-per-views. Give people a reason to buy the pay-per-views. And that is one thing people disconnect with these days. They want to see those big title matches week after week on television. It's like, okay, they've got enough belts. They can put something on as a championship on a Wednesday night, leave the world championship matches for their pay-per-views. And more so, you're going to have people that, like ourselves, who maybe don't watch every single AEW pay-per-view. We try to, but we don't always get tuned into them. When we get a big match like this that hasn't been given away on a Wednesday night, you're very invested in it and want to watch the entire card because they've got that one really strongly booked world championship match to top the whole thing off.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more on that. And I just wanted to let everyone know who is watching this show right now on my Twitch at the Chris Parrish. I will be rating the account of our local establishment in about 10 seconds. So just be ready for that. Same content. You won't miss anything. Just want to let you know that we're going to take this time to kind of help push our local establishment out here on Twitch. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that front because, and there it is. Here's the rage. It's been done. So yeah, no, so it's, to me, I think very interesting to see not only the build, because I do think the build of MJF as champion is almost comparable to, as Astrid is saying, talking about Adam Page. I think Adam's Page build was fantastic. I thought his booking and his championship reign was a letdown and very underwhelming given to what we knew from his build. Just because he was very organic. He was very much the first homegrown, like truly homegrown. But now MJF is kind of almost more homegrown, I think.
Yeah,
than at Page. And I do feel that when it comes down to execution, there is very little amount of people like MJF and AEW, including Adam Page. And that is why I don't believe that MJF is going to have an issue once he becomes champion, because when it comes down to it, very few people are better at this than he is.
Yeah, and you know it. Yeah, and that's just it. And again, I know that a lot of the AEW fans really love Adam Page and stuff like that. Yeah. And the thing that was good about his build was the matches that led into it. But the thing with Page is he had a lot of good guys to carry said matches and stuff like that. Like when we talk about how awesome matches with Daniel Bryanson were, it's because of how awesome Daniel Bryanson is and how he puts how he puts people over and stuff like that. He is excellent at putting people over. I'm sure, I don't know the first thing about putting together a wrestling match, but I'm sure that if somebody put me across the ring with Bryan Danielson, he would be able to carry me enough to make it look like it wasn't a pile of dog shit by the end of it. So, I mean, it's a testament to sometimes who you work with. And the problem is once Page got to that level, there wasn't really anyone for him to work with without going back to what he had already done on the way to get there. And I think that's why it fell flat with his title run. I'm not saying that they can't build from that. He's been champion once. If he continues to progress up and the fans continue to stay behind him, there is that chance that he could get another one. And maybe the next one is that much more memorable and he has the better people to work with because they'll have had time to develop new faces within the company.
Yeah. And this is kind of just me saying this, but okay, hypothetically, he wins a championship on November 19th. who would you have him face right away for that championship? On top of that, who is the best person to dethrone him as champion?
See, that's tough because I wouldn't be really looking to who can dethrone him right away immediately because I would want MJF to be able to hold it for that long. I wouldn't be against seeing him have a bust up with Wardlow again, just because the storyline is definitely there. I'm not saying Wardlow needs to be the guy to dethrone him. I mean, maybe eventually. I wouldn't have it be right away. Not too soon. Don't drop this right away. But Wardlow is a star in the making himself, and another guy who's been built very well within AEW, somebody who I enjoy the work of. And I don't mind the idea of going back to a storyline that's already had some development within it. There is a reason for those two to lock horns, especially now with the idea that MJF is the top guy, and Wardlow is the guy that poses a threat to that. He understands MJF. He's collided with MJF. He knows him. So again, that builds a very strong narrative, both for Wardlow as a guy to challenge him right away, but also maybe to down the road be the guy to dethrone him as well too. I think continued success for Wardlow will inevitably lead him to that top title.
Yeah, and that's kind of a name I'm thinking of as well. Right away, like as the guy that ultimately could beat him for that championship. Yeah, I agree. As initial people for him to go against, I do look at a Bryan Danielson. I do look at a Samoa Joe. I do look of potentially a Darby Allin again.
There you go.
I even wouldn't be surprised if we see Kenny Omega. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Claudio. But yeah, I do think there's still skeletons in MJF's past that I wouldn't be up. And yeah, that's again like the Ricky Starks, the Jungle Boys, and the Hobbs of the world, 100%. And I do think that this would be a great time to start that, because if you're using MJF's reign to help develop the new future stars of AEW, then what you're doing is not only creating a great opportunity for AEW to be a thing after the Kenny Omegas hangs it up, the Chris Jericho hangs it up, the John Moxley's hangs it up, kind of a thing. But what you're doing is you're allowing MJF, when 2024 comes, say, hey, yeah, as long as you pay me my money, I dig what's going on here, and I'm very much going to be here. And I think you really have to look at this as an opportunity of like, all right, is this reign going to be used properly to not only help AEW, but also take an account? You need to keep MJF in about, 13, 14 months' time?
Yeah. And I know Carl's saying MJF wins, Orange Cassidy first, Wardlow to beat him. I think we're pretty universal on Wardlow to beat him, but Orange Cassidy, I mean, I don't want
to. Not as long as Orange Cassidy's the Mid-Atlantic champion, I don't think.
God, the fact that he even has a belt, I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan.
Speaking of which, with Juice Robinson now becoming all elite, when are we going to get Team Orange Juice? That's all I want to know.
I know you've mentioned this a few times. I've heard it a few times.
I mean,
yeah, Juice Robinson's all elite. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could go that direction if you want to be comical about it. I mean, nothing about Orange Cassidy clearly is serious. Oh, of course it is. That's they eat that stuff up big time. I mean, it's gonna be that way.
Well, no, you drink orange juice. You drink it in, man.
You know what? And it still won't do enough to make me want to watch an Orange Cassidy match. I'm sorry. Just my personal opinion.
Hey, concentrate. All right.
All right. I got nothing to rebuttal that one with.
Yeah, no. But no, I mean, I just think it's an interesting. I think this match is going to do huge numbers. I think this match is going to just be off the charts good. Also, I just want to also say one thing. It's also I thought was off the charts good. We saw some history being made this week in professional wrestling. We were crowned the very first ever fourth generational wrestler in Simone Johnson, a.k.a. Ava Raine, as she joined Schism at NXT on Tuesday night. And I just want to say that was one hell of a promo right away. Speaking of someone who I know has some pretty big shoes to fill, not only is she beating to her drum, she understands where she is, but that was an absolutely great debut for someone of Ava Raine, as Astrid in her comments had predicted, by the way. So I want to point that one out. But yeah, Simone Johnson, the daughter of Dwayne The Rock Johnson, is officially on the NXT roster and now is the first ever fourth generational wrestler in WWE. Maybe in wrestling, I don't know, but I know in WWE for sure.
And not only a big moment for her, but obviously, yeah, you say big shoes to fill, of course. I mean, how do you follow up being in the footsteps of a father when, like, The Rock?
Yeah,
I mean,
Astrid, this is our show. Calm down. Just kidding. She did. That's why she's a natural. She's a natural. And that's why we didn't let her on the POS show. I wanted to keep that title. I didn't want to lose it. In the words of Booker T, I was shucky ducky quack quack on that one.
Nice. But yeah, it's amazing though that not only did this stand out like a sore thumb because she got the publicity based on who her dad was. Yeah, because I mean, I don't know a paper news article or anything that didn't run an article about this happening, but it also gave more credibility to Schism because every single picture that was noted was the group with her standing in front of them and everything like that. So when you're getting that popularity brought in, it brings focus to that group as a whole as well too. So imagine the great things it's going to do for them. But this could have tanked. I mean, we don't know what she was like, how ready she was. We're expecting very big things because of who her dad is, and she goes out there. And she made, speaking of shows that use this, she was making an impact on NXT.
Very much so. So I'm just going to get to this. Never. But yeah, no, I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. Just when you kind of know that there's going to be a little bit of a shift in the women's division in NXT coming up and I think just, given the status of some people and kind of, like this is the time where you start seeing people start getting groomed up to that main roster. It's nice to see some new blood, some new faces, and I thought they did a great job of bringing her in. She's not going to be the focal point of the group, but what she is the newest part, and a lot of people are always very interested in the new thing. And now it's time to see how she develops in her own skin. Now, Ava Raine, part of the NXT, part of the Schism, alongside with the artist formerly known as the Grizzled Young Vets, now known as the Dyad, and then Joe Gacy, who all of a sudden now he looks ready to be the guy again. When I was not sure where he was going to be after those matches with Braun Breaker, I had no idea where you go next with him. They've done a great job of I don't want to say packaging, but they did a great job of refreshing Joe Gacy and bringing him back into that scene.
How about this? Re-establishment team.
Ooh. You know what that deserves, Bobby?
Ole! There we go.
Yeah. Flip that. But yeah, so I thought that was great. And then, yeah, I know, Ed, you're talking about the OC. I mean, we might as well start talking about it. Right? Not what we want to talk about, but it's always nice to throw that in. But no, Ed does mention about the OC, which I think is great. I do think the OC Judgment Day, we have to talk about that at some point, right? Like, this is starting to become just amazing. But I want to talk about Carl Anderson just a little bit.
I knew we were going
just a little bit, because do we think he's ever going to defend that never championship. Like come on. Like let's be honest right now. What are we thinking here? Because this is interesting to me.
I think that there's an agreement between both companies. I really think that this is going to play into storyline. I think that we will at some point in time possibly see him walk out with that belt on Monday Night Raw and cause the internet to just explode. The wrestling community online is going to go absolutely bonkers if Carl Anderson walks out with one of New Japan Pro Wrestling's championship belts onto a Monday Night Raw. And that's exactly what Triple H has been great at creating lately, is just that online commentary. He understands the community that's online and what it does. Because if you get something like that trending, maybe the casual fans don't know, but they're like, well, what the hell's going on? That didn't happen 10 years ago when I stopped watching, or 15 years ago when I stopped watching. What's this all about? And they start to become interested again. They're like, hey, I see Monday Night Raw trending every single week now. I better go check it out. And I think that that's what this creates. And then it also brings in a lot of those people from New Japan who, previously might not have been interested in WWE, which is why they became very more intrigued with New Japan, because it's a lot more of that style that they enjoy and stuff. But if they start seeing one of that belts over on Monday Night Raw, and then possibly seeing Carl Anderson, who knows, maybe he ends up as a tag champ in WWE, takes those belts over to a New Japan show down the line here too. I think opening the door and allowing the talent to work back and forth is a great thing for the WWE, and only expands upon their image within the wrestling community and the worldwide community as well too. And I think that if that's the case, if that's what we got going on here, I think this is a plus for both sides of the fence.
Yeah, and I think it'd be really cool for him if he was to bring that championship on Raw. But I think that's that's the first time where he's going to, locally establish the working relationship. Yeah. I can do it too. But also I think that is going to be the first time where you actually see that there could be that working relationship, whether it's a one-time, whether it's a long time. Who knows? Oh, thank you so much. Oh my God.
It's on.
Yeah, remember it's on loop. Oh, it's on loop. You might want to just hit that again.
As always, don't let Bobby touch the buttons.
We got Bobby Buttons over here.
That's right.
Buttons Munson. No. But no. No, just kidding. No, it's also another old school Japanese promotion. But no, I think it's just going to be interesting to see what that holds. I think he'd be the first male superstar to bring in a different company's title since Jeff Jarrett did it. I want to say it was back in 1995. You haven't seen stuff like this for very often. But we did see it this earlier, as like, I don't want people to get twisted if this is a thing to be like, oh my God, look at what Triple H is doing. Vince McMahon allowed this in January when Mickie James brought the Impact Women's Champion, or the Knockouts Championship, and she held that as she made her way down to the Royal Rumble, coming out to her hardcore country theme, which I still think there could have been a lot more to that if they could. I think that was a missed opportunity for maybe the women to really get that Forbidden Door and be used properly, because there's something to me that you put another female pay-per-view, whether it's Evolution 2, but then you also bring in the girls from either Stardom or Impact Wrestling, things like that. That is something that the wrestling world will definitely talk about, tune into, and watch and support on that matter.
Well, speaking of that, have you read or heard recently about Billy Corgan making comments about a possible working relationship between the NWA and NXT coming up, where they would allow a lot of the workers to get some of their matches in and stuff like that, working with Billy over the NWA, and vice versa? That would allow NXT to open the door to invite some of the more established talent that are over in the NWA to make their way over to NXT without any full-time signed contracts. And I think that if they start opening these doors and allowing for that, opens up a lot of great things, because there is a lot of talent that are working currently with Billy Corgan that I think could easily make that shift over and jump on an NXT show. You could build a storyline where somebody comes in and see how they react to the fans without making a full-time commitment to them exclusively to the NXT brand. I think that it's a very interesting time in pro wrestling when we could start to see those doors opening up properly. The way the forbidden door works is when one company doesn't open it up, that's what this becomes. And now the WWE starting to be more receptive to it. It seems like the true forbidden door has been opened, and we never know what we could end up seeing.
I think with Triple H, you can never say no. I think with Vince McMahon, the never say never was a tagline. I think with Triple H, anything is possible. I think that should be the new tagline now. It's not never say never, it's anything is possible. And I do believe that's more of a positive movement. And I do think that's the movement pro wrestling needs to look at. Anything it should and can be possible. And I do believe that this is a real thing with him. And I do think that this would be something that even Shawn Michaels has probably said, hey, let's think outside the box here, because he's even gone on record saying that he wants to like steal talent from every other place if he can. He wants to poach ideas everywhere and then use them as their own. Like, he's cool. Like, he doesn't mind. Like, that's an old school approach, right? We've seen that how many times in the past, and that's really what a lot of pro wrestling is just getting an idea from somewhere and making it your own, and then there it is. So I'd be very much on board with NXT and the NWA having a working relationship. And I do think it'd be really cool. Like, imagine if this is like the thing, be like, okay, Triple H has a conversation with Billy Corgan. Hey, Billy, what about a working relationship with NXT and NWA? Oh, yeah, what are you thinking? How about our girls come over to your show? Maybe some of your girls come over to mine. We'll promote the crap out of you with our platform, but Smashing Pumpkins may have to play at an NXT show.
Hey, bring it on! I think that would be fantastic. I'd love to see Billy.
Triple H loves his rock music, so like I wouldn't.
Sure does. You know what? And Billy still rocks after all these years. The Smashing Pumpkins are still fantastic.
You know how we were talking about, stuff for our Twitch moving forward.
Yeah,
we should try to get a pun where it's like, despite on my raid.
Despite all my raid. Yeah, I like it.
Something to marinate with.
We got to play around with the Twitch buttons a little bit. I think we're gonna have to fancy it up over time and stuff like that. You know, once we get followers and subscribers, have some sort of thing that plays and stuff like that. I've been watching people. I've been trying to learn. You know.
Yeah, we're learning.
Exactly.
So. Yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about? I know we've been crushing out for that 82 minutes right now. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before we start telling about what's coming up and stuff like that, just a big shout out to the show we had last night here in Saskatoon. It was a fantastic time for Prairie Pro Wrestling. Again, another packed house for us. Thank you to everybody who came out and watched. But also just a resounding connection with the crowd. Again, we bring in new faces and the crowd instantly gets glued to them. It's a testament to what you guys got going on over there in Alberta as well too, because as soon as we start bringing some of these people who, again, I'm more familiar with than what some of the people in Saskatoon are currently, but they instantly click with them. And one of the big ones last night was your tag team partner there, Chris Parrish, made his way out to make his Saskatoon debut. So Son of Irish debuted in Saskatoon along with another debut, the Rhinestone Cowboy, Stephen Crow as well. They had the opening match of the night in Prairie Pro Wrestling last night, made an instant impact and impression on the crowd, very much over with our crowds here. And again, I can't wait to see both of them back in Saskatoon, hopefully by December 10th, even with our next show coming up. Fantastic to get to finally meet Irish in person. Wonderful human being, and he did an excellent job last night.
So I just got to ask, are you now understanding that he's a son of Irish, not the son of Parrish?
Yes, I've got it down. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, okay. That's right. Yeah. I mean, he resembles his actual dad more than he does you. So,
well, I mean, let's hope so. No, but I did tell him, hey, if you want to make a good, strong impression in Saskatchewan, make sure you're wearing those green tights. There you got. So
yeah. No, and he made an instant impact. Obviously, the fans loved him, and they want to see more Son of Irish here in Saskatoon. And I knew they would. I knew right away after I saw him. In fact, first time I watched him wrestle was against you, and honestly, I knew right then. I was like, this is a guy that I think if he comes out to
with almost broken ribs, by the way.
That's right, yeah. But yes, he comes out here. He made that instant impact like I knew he would, and the crowd love and adore him. And I can't wait for the opportunity to see him come back here to Saskatoon and get more matches in here at Prairie Pro Wrestling.
Hell yeah. And also, we just also want to say thank you to everyone who is stopping by, who decided to pull up that stool and join our table of discussion here tonight, or today, sorry, on Busting Out, the very first edition of Busting Out on OLE, part of our local establishment. So very successful first show, I might say.
Very successful first show. I've seen those numbers. They're looking good.
And very, well, it's just more than the numbers, too. I mean, we definitely appreciate the numbers, but we're getting a very great chat going on.
That too, of course.
A very nice, active chat.
It didn't even go as off the rails as we normally do.
For two people that I wrote down 2 things on my piece of paper, you had nothing, and we somehow did this work.
No, that's right.
I mean, we flowed like the river of slime in Ghostbusters, so it was all great.
Yeah. But we should probably let people at least have a look at what's coming up from OLE this coming week.
Well, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And before we do that, I just also want to tell people that we do have the very first edition of the Variant Wrestling Realities coming up today.
Yeah, that's right. And
on
today,
the Twitch, you won't see that on the calendar. And this is where I'm going to have her back, because this calendar technically starts tomorrow, right? So it's the upcoming week.
Yeah.
Not today. So you didn't mess up, in my opinion.
But I did because I put for November the 6th on there. So that's where I messed up. That's where I messed up. So I put it as if it's next Sunday. So I do apologize. But the Variant Wrestling Realities that you will see at the end of this coming calendar here is actually on today, not next Sunday. So you're going to get to see that episode hosted by the wonderful Ed Fries and featuring the 2 of us, the Brunch Busters. If you haven't had enough of us in this 90 minutes, you're going to get more of us this afternoon on the very first episode of Variant Wrestling Realities. But let's go to the calendar here first. We can talk all about that in just a moment.
To me, like a voice inside my head. It's like a fight that I cannot win. I'm falling, frustrated, intoxicated. I know I'm losing myself. I can't take it anymore. But I'm not done. I'm not done. I won't give up until the end. But I won't fall. I'll stand away.
And it cuts off just like that. But yeah, you see my error there. I put it as on November the 6th. I messed that up. So I apologize to Ed Fries. It is actually today, this afternoon, I believe at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Variant Wrestling Realities is going to be airing. And it is all about the what ifs of professional wrestling. What if a certain event in the wrestling world did not happen and how that would affect the timeline of professional wrestling. It was an absolute honor to be able to be part of this very first episode, and very, very proud of what Ed has put together here. And I can't wait for everybody to get to finally see it.
Coming in. Maybe I just need to record a new episode for next Sunday.
Well, you could do that. Hey, we're not opposed.
Or we can just replay it and to make Bobby not a fool.
Yeah, well, there we go. It's the replay of Variant Wrestling Realities next Sunday.
But I mean, you want to watch it for the first time.
Of course.
Today, though.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I'm assuming Ed's going to be in the chat there to answer any questions people have along.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be very important too. If you have questions, it is a pre-recorded show for everyone there. So yeah, if Ed's in the chat and you want to ask questions, go right ahead because he'll be right there to answer them. I should be.
Perfect.
So yeah, as should I. I'm gonna put it over to you where we could find you, what you have going on, if there's anything not in that little video that you played.
That's right. Well, I mean, it's not that there's nothing. Yeah, it's all in that video. I didn't get around to doing a bravado this week. I was planning to. I'm not sure if I'm going to get on later tonight or maybe tomorrow, possibly, to do a little bit of that. We'll see. But we also got the Raw watch along coming from Carl Carafel tomorrow night. This is a great time. So join Carl tomorrow night during Monday Night Raw to watch the watch along. Carl is so much fun and so entertaining and just a fantastic person to watch anything along with. So definitely check him out there. And again, you can find me on Thursday nights with Papa Smokes. The greatest part about this Thursday night is we are going to be reviewing the first episode of Fusion of the new season. So MLW finally coming back. They will be on Pro Wrestling TV, so you can watch this on the Roku channel. You can watch it on the Plex channel, or you could just go right online here, Pro Wrestling TV. It's absolutely 100% free, and they are going to be dropping the Battle Riot for this Thursday night, and we're going to be reviewing that right afterwards. And of course, outside of that, I should mention that our Thursday night doubleheader with Astrid and Cody making an impact right afterwards. Go check them out shortly after we are done with Fusion on Thursday night. Friday, of course, you saw it there. Ring Respect Radio, pre-recorded episodes of Ring Respect Radio with myself and Pop Smokes are dropping on Fridays. And of course, Sunday, busting out right here with Mr. Chris Parrish. And who knows what happens during the week. You can catch my gaming streams throughout the week over at VideoBro_Bobby Munson and other various little projects I might have on the go here.
Awesome stuff. And just so you know, you can probably hear a little bit more about Chris Bay's new contract with Impact Wrestling as on Making an Impact as well. Oh, yeah. I'm sure they'll talk about that a little bit, as well as I know that one Cody might talk a little bit more about Joe Hendry, because I think he kind of has a liking to that performer. But if you have a liking to what I talk about, which you can tell me why if you DM me on these ones, but you can tell me on the Twitter at Chris Parrish, the Instagram Chris.Parrish, and obviously at my Twitch. Some of you were on, and I appreciate that, at the Chris Parrish. What I have coming up is obviously on the calendar. We got taking over on Tuesday nights, right after the Turnbuckle Talk there. And then we also have you and I coming back next Sunday, busting out, where I'll be probably more exhausted so I'll probably getting home like probably 3 hours before we go live.
That's gonna be crazy.
So yeah, might have a few of these energy drinks, brother. But yeah,
you should get yourself some Rogue for the road.
No, right. I definitely should. At Fries Believe in Joe Hendry. And then Astrid saying, oh, yes, he's obsessed now. Couldn't tell, by the way. Just
no, not at all.
Tell. But yeah, also, I just want to let everyone know one thing.
You did it. You found a reason.
Yeah, we'll be raiding people.
All right.
We're not going to end. We're going to raid people. Yeah, it was I'm going to find a way to use that every single time, even if it's small or not. But that's what she said.
He did it. He got one in before the end of the show.
And but no, we're going to raid our good buddy over at Heel Kevin. We did it last time.
Oh, that guy's fantastic. Love
he
that
is
dude.
A character. He's reviewing some football, but just go and give him some love and support. He does this full time. He's just a great guy. So if anybody who's going to stay on here, and make sure you're in there. He's very interactive with his people.
Oh, yeah.
His chat.
We got to get him on Busted Out.
Oh, we will. It's a work in progress. But I think for you, Bobby, and for myself, thank you to everyone watching here and making this first edition of Busting Out on our local establishment a success. Just want to say thank you, and let's raid a good person in Heel Kevin. It's about 10 seconds, so I'm just going to let people know. So have a great rest of your Sunday, everyone.
Yes, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
And then by chance, if anybody's still here just watching us, we just want to say thank you. And I'm going to just say have a great rest of your day. And you've been busted, bitch. You can feel the root shaking as you're running out of breath.
If you're ready to rock, we'll just let it roll. Are you ready now? Are you ready to move? Let's just move.